Let's talk a little bit, since you have me, your corporate attorney specializing in mergers and acquisitions and specifically entrepreneurship through acquisitions. Let's talk about the legal considerations in entrepreneurship through acquisitions. We just spoke about due diligence. Due diligence is the process by which you research, learn more about the business that you're interested in buying, and overall go through the process of learning enough about it to structure a deal, decide if it's the business that you want to buy, both before your letter of intent and after your letter of intent. And then there's different types of due diligence as well: operational, which you'll do; financial, which you may do or hire an expert for; and then legal, which we will do. So due diligence is just one part. I have a whole guide on the various phases of an acquisition, and actually I think that might be our first episode as well. So if you want to learn more about overall the deal timeline, the different phases of the acquisition and everything, you can download that guide. You can also check out the first episode of the podcast so you can learn more about the phases of buying a business and the letter of intent, all of those different aspects. We also have a podcast on deal structure of asset purchases versus stock purchases. So there's generally 3 different ways to buy a business. You can either buy it as an asset purchase, where it is purchasing the assets of the business. You set up your own business. All of those have to be transferred. You could also purchase the equity. This is generally referred to as stock, but typically it could also be membership interests if it's an LLC, or partnership interests if it's a limited liability partnership or partnership or limited partnership. So there are different ways to characterize it, but most people just call it a stock purchase. And then there's actually a merger. You typically don't see mergers in entrepreneurship through acquisition because a merger would generally be between 2 existing companies, and you would have that be more of a strategic acquisition. So after your first acquisition, maybe that's something you might consider, but mergers you don't see too often. That's why we have that episode on asset purchases versus stock purchases, which is really good if you want to hear the pros and cons. But determining your deal structure will influence the overall risk profile that you have. So if you're thinking that this is a great way to pursue building a retirement and getting the financial freedom that you want, amazing, but make sure that your deal structure is sufficient enough to protect you. And the number one thing that you can invest in is good legal support in your transaction, including before you sign that LOI. I actually just spoke with a client today who got absolutely burned from not having legal counsel before signing the LOI in a prior deal. That deal had fallen through. And he was like, I would love to speak with you today because I want to submit an LOI, look at an LOI, and I really want legal counsel before it's signed. And that's really important. So we do have a flat fee package just to do letters of intent that's discounted to support our clients through that more uncertain phase where there's more reps going into it than just the one sometimes. And then the overall conversations in structuring your deal are going to be covering all kinds of things, from purchase price to the structure of the purchase price, whether there's rollover equity or seller notes, how the transition period is structured with the seller, how they might be involved post-closing, if there's an asset purchase versus a stock purchase, whether you might have employees that you want to make sure that you get key employment agreements for, if there's a lease, what the lease terms are, if there's real estate involved, how that's handled. So there are a lot of different terms that you're going to encounter both in your letter of intent as well as in your overall deal structure that we work through with you in that entire process.